I reached out, as I said, to some of my friends who disagree with you, and somebody shared this with me. They said what the major issue is that your proposal, Mike, dealing with the discrepancies among the Gospels, is that he says that Lacona's theory suggests that the discrepancies are due to deliberate redactions on the part of the Gospel authors. In other words, they knowingly describe things as happening in ways contrary to what they believe happened. And then he said that he just finds this objectionable, and that many of your critics find it objectionable as well. But when I think about when I tell that story, I'm telling history. I'm giving true history, but I do employ some of these things, and I have knowingly changed some of these details. And so when I think about this major disagreement that some of your critics have with you, and I apply it to how I tell that story, it just doesn't land for me. It doesn't. I don't feel the force of it.
Yeah.
Am I missing something?
No, I don't feel the force of it either. It just kind of, I'm bewildered at this kind of pushback, to be honest with you, because this just seems so self-intuitive. In fact, I remember Dan Wallace saying to me, "How did you come up with this?" I said, it just seems so intuitive. It's like right there before us that they did these compositional devices. It's so simple. And it's like people go through these kinds of harmonizations that are sometimes tortured, and they really turn people off. It's like, is that what you got to do in order to rescue your Bible? Yet this just makes so much sense. It's just common sense. And I said, it's maybe that's why, because it's just so simple. I'm not a complex thinker. It's just simple. So I don't know why they get, so upset over this stuff. I guess maybe because they think, well, they couldn't do this. It's God's word. God wouldn't do that. And wait a minute. Look at Mark chapter 1, verse 5. And Mark says that the entire region of Judea and every Jerusalemite went out to see John the Baptist and were baptized by him. Now, are we really to think that every Jerusalemite to the very last one went out to see John and was baptized by him?
No, it's hard to believe.
It's obvious that Mark here is speaking in hyperbolic language. He's exaggerating to make his point. It'd be very similar to, let's say, 20 years ago, Billy Graham, let's say, comes to Atlanta and the stadium is packed. It's the whole city of Atlanta came out to see Graham. It's like, well, no, nobody's going to take that as being literal, but we understand what's doing. But in a very literal sense, Mark has changed the facts of reality. He has changed it from many people went out to see him, and many of those were baptized by John, to everyone went out and everyone was baptized by him. Yeah. Now that is changing things. It's changing the facts, right? But we don't object to it because we're used to that kind of stuff. We do that every day in our ordinary conversations. I think when it comes to some of these other things, if God's going to allow that kind of stuff, why are the other stuff taboo? Why is the other stuff off limit? And then you look at Jesus' baptism. In Mark and in Luke, God says to Jesus, "You are my beloved son. With you I am well pleased." He's speaking directly to Jesus. In Matthew, Matthew wasn't around at that time. Remember, he came later on. So he is using Mark as his primary source here. And the voice changes to, "This is my beloved son. With him I am well pleased." God is directly addressing the crowd, transferal. Yeah. Here, Matthew does not hesitate to change the very words that came out of God's mouth. In order to make the point more clear. I agree with Augustine on this. He did it in order to make the point clearer to the readers that God is affirming that he loves Jesus. Jesus is his son. He's affirming that to the readers of Matthew's gospel. So
That's the important thing to take away when you read that
yeah,
section.
that's what's
Right.
important.